Good evening. It is a Monday night. It is the forum. It is the Daytrippers. Welcome. It's Ray Dicko, your host. There are four of us as usual tonight, four topics. I guess we will try and use this as a bit of therapy for what is really starting to fall apart in terms of Liverpool's season. So I have got above me Andy Young, top red. How you doing, Andy?
Doing my best to stay at the top of redness at the moment. It's quite difficult. But look, the fat back four presented a very strong case last night to totally give up on football. So I think what we're trying to do is give people some hope again. Maybe try anyway.
We'll try our best, eh? As much as you'll try your best, Phil. No, up there. We'll try and destroy that all again. How you doing, Phil?
Super, Ray. Super, Ray. This has been like the best season in ages, isn't it? It really has. Like we spent the best part of 2 years and have nothing to talk about. There's fucking loads to talk about. It's great. It's great. I love our shit.
Getting mundane, wasn't it? I mean, like this is like for a team to be top of the league at Christmas, like this is the implosions of all implosions. Must make you very happy. And then we've got over this side, we've got Shane. How you doing, Shane?
Hey, Ray. All good. Well, not good, but yeah. The only thing that can make Phil happier, I think, is if Paul Brennan was back on the pod with him to double up on the misery.
Some of the proper doom and gloom merchants, is probably what would have spiced things up at this stage.
Me, Phil, Paul, and Jamie hosting, that would be just epic.
We invented the swamp. Me and Paul are the original ogres in the swamp. It's like we basically, if you wait around till midnight, we'll turn green and turn into Shreks. It's great crack.
Yeah. Right. So I guess the only thing that would have cheered a couple of you lads up, Andy and Shane in particular, was the courses being back open today. So a massive one for you lads, and I know for Gav as well. So look, we're going to cover 4 topics tonight. We're going to talk about, first of all, is going to be my topic. We're going to talk, well, I'm going to basically say that, look, we don't deserve top 4 after particularly what we've seen after Christmas. We're then going to go on to discussing the merits of being in the Europa League next season, seeing as that's the most likely outcome here. We're going to then go on to leaders on the pitch, or the lack thereof, in this second half of the season, and then we'll lead that into the mentality of next season and the impact this implosion has had, really. So without further ado, look, I wanted to say really my bit last night. I was listening to the lads on the fat back four, and you could hear the frustration and the anger. But at this point in the season and after the weekend, I think I've kind of come to the conclusion, really, that we don't deserve top 4, and I don't say that easily or lightly. And I was even hoping I'd come on tonight and we'd get a bit of a boost from Palace, really, lads. But again, it was kind of false dawns on that 45 minutes where you thought maybe we'd be let back in again. But I think the reality is we haven't taken the bull by the horns the second half of the season, even with the adversity that we've had with the injuries and whatnot. We had a fantastic position. You can understand us not winning this league. Manchester City have been very consistent in the second half of the season. And look, they're always a force to be reckoned with. But the reality is the drop-off has just been so extreme, and the reaction to, like, really Saturday, for all the chances that we had, it encapsulated what it's been like. For the certainly that run of home games where we've taken very little from them. we've absolutely capitulated, and I don't think we deserve top four. There's other teams that deserve top four. Andy, what's your view?
Yeah, it's all come to a head now, hasn't it? I mean, the whole European Super League shite, and then the performance at the weekend. Although it was a decent performance first half, you can't fault them in terms of approach. But to give up those chances that they had, it could have been like 6 or 7-1 at half time. But it's all come to a head. You know, you look at games like Chelsea and Everton that were totally gutless performances, whereas I mean the performance yesterday was a lot better. Our performance at the weekend, it was a lot better than some of our games last season where we won by the odd goal. Like we could have been far and far away, but it's come to a head now. And look, if our players can't finish off the type of chances that were created in that game, no, absolutely, we don't deserve it. We blagged our way to the top of the league coming up to Christmas. We blagged our way. I mean, like we were still within touching distance despite not scoring a fucking single goal at Anfield for about 3 months, and we still managed to be within touching distance of top four. We've only got ourselves to blame now. Everybody's accountable. Look, all the excuses in the world that we've given ourselves, and we still hung in there to have a chance. But look, with a game like that, with those chances given up at the weekend, that's it now. You just have to hold your hand up and accept that we do not deserve top four.
Shane, I'm going to come to Phil last because, like, I'm just going to keep him waiting with that smiley, noddy face. Shane, like, have you made peace with this now, where the situation we're in and the fact that Europa is looming large?
Yeah, look, Andy kind of hit the nail on the head. You don't listen. Ultimately, you end up where you finish in the league is where you deserve to end up. It doesn't really lie. But the most disappointing thing for me is that, like Andy said, like you go 3 months without scoring a goal barely. But when the door is open ajar, like a good team will take the opportunity that falls to them, and like we've let them slip time and again. Like a really strong team with strong mentality. That should be coming back. The door is open ajar slightly. Let's fucking run through that door, take the opportunity, and we've just fucked it away. Like by 2 late goals, 87th minute, 95th minute, or something like that, against 2 bottom half. Well, fair enough. Listen, Leeds are top half, and they're a very good side to watch bar of the weekend. But to give away 2 goals, I think we've done a topic on it before on here, going back last season. Maybe I think we won 9 games last year by the odd goal, to show that how strong mentally the side were and how good we were at seeing it out. But this season now they've crumbled after Christmas, and it's gone. Like you can put all the ifs, buts, and maybes now. If we beat United, now we're not going to beat United. You can't beat these sides at home. You're not going to go to Old Trafford against a team who, listen, like in our group, some people think United are decent, others think they're shy. Johnny thinks they're shy, but they find a way to win. They find a way to win, and at this moment, since from Christmas on, we found a way not to win games, and ultimately, I'd have no confidence going to Old Trafford. And listen, I wouldn't even back us winning the other 3 games either, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, Phil, you can draw parallels to the bad old days now, can't you? Some of your famous trips over to Anfield to watch some absolute disastrous result performances. It's like the good old days for you.
They're as great as memories, Ray.
Seeing like big lumps of plotters knocking around a pitch like Firmino and fucking Phillips and some absolute stockings of shite in the team, it just takes you back to the good old days where we had Balotelli and Lambert and Markovic and lads were being thrown under buses. That phrase is back this year. It's joyous. It's joyous to be back in this position.
And bringing lads off the bench who just can't make an impact.
It's like a comfort blanket. It's throwing that big comfort blanket of being shit around you, not having to worry about achieving, not having to worry about upholding standards and pretending that like it actually matters. Like it doesn't. But like I'll give you one thing. Right, I'll go the opposite way for you. Do we deserve to be top 4? We deserve to be better than top 4. We, at this moment in time, if this team had an ounce of bollocks about it, we'd be second. We've dropped 15 points. 15 points this season from leading positions after 75 minutes. 15 points on what we have at the moment would have us clear in second place in the league.
That's research right there.
There you go. So that's what we're talking about in terms of this team. So the biggest enemy this team has is itself. Despite having like farmers playing in it, right? Despite having fellas who finished playing football 2 years ago, despite having fellas who'll never play again, like you'll never see. Like everyone knows how much American football I watch, but I'm looking at these lads, and they remind me of all the undrafted free agents that you see turn up in a game here and there, and then you never hear about them again. We'll never know. In 3 years' time, one of the questions will be, what happened to Reece Williams? Where did he go to? Do you remember he played in a couple of Champions League games, and we all think, doesn't he look like a baby Van Dijk? And then you never, ever hear about him again, right? He's vanished. Ben Davies, was that all a dream? Like there was a whole television series, Dallas, was built around Ben Davies going into the shower. But where's Ben Davies gone to? Like, what is he? Does he exist?
He wasn't even on the bench just in case there was a chance he had to be put on. I mean, I don't know what was going on there. I mean, you know, there was no, outside of Reece Williams, there was no cover. It was almost like they would have triggered a 500 grand appearance clause or something.
Has anyone checked to see if Ben Davies' agent is the same fella as Ozan Kabak's agent? Because it's starting to look like, well, if you sign him, I'll get the other fella in for you. Do you know what I mean? Like you're starting to question that deal completely. But yeah, like you know. Honestly, Ray, you say, do we deserve top four? Given the amount of winning positions we've been in, we deserve to be, as I said, we deserve to be second. If we were 6 points off City at the moment, we'd be saying, oh, look, it's been a really shit league. It's been a really crap situation, but we're only 6 points off City. Who knows what could happen over these last couple of games, because they have dropped points here and there. If they drop one, they'll get nervy and they get back into this. And like this is what's instead we're talking about. Oh well, we're only 8 points off Leicester. Who knows if they lose all the rest of their matches and we manage to somehow go on a 5-match winning streak, which we haven't been able to do since the year turned 2020. Then, like you know, we'll definitely go on and win the league. Like this is the insanity that we sit in at this moment of time. It's just, you know, do we deserve top four? Not a chance. We're not a Champions League team based on what we've done this season. Manager isn't a Champions League manager. The players aren't Champions League. Outside of Mo Salah, there's not one top level talent that's playing in that team at the moment. Robertson is an average left back. Trent has been an average right back this season. Alisson, basically, he's been a top 6 goalkeeper this year. If you want to look at the mistakes and things that he's done this season, that's the level he's played to. And then you look at midfield. Wijnaldum is done. I think his legs are gone. Thiago's at the moment doesn't fit this team whatsoever. Smashing player, but just doesn't fit how we play. Doesn't fit the way Klopp wants to play. And it really is looking like a terrible doom and gloom scenario for this team. We've gone from only needing to bring in 1 to 2 players in the transfer window to needing to bring in maybe 15, 16 to get us back to where we were.
Yeah.
And that's what it looks like.
Stephen O'Connor's, you know, fairly optimistic here in terms of saying next year things will be different. Virgil back next to Kanate, assuming that transfer happens. Bring in a few more and we're good. Virgil killed our season.
That's bollocks, by the way. Can I just say that's this narrative that Van Dijk getting injured has killed our season. Like, if your team relies on solely one player to deliver top four, then how come we managed to make Champions League all the years that Van Dijk didn't sign for us under Klopp?
Well, look, if you remember before Van Dijk got injured, he wasn't having his best run of form in our team.
No,
you know, he'd been dribbled past once in 3 seasons or something, and this season he'd been dribbled past 3 times in games. You know, so there was a very, very notable drop off in Van Dijk even before he did get injured. So, look, these are nice excuses. These are nice reasons. Pile them all together. Yeah, you maybe got a strong case for why we fell off a cliff, but I mean that sort of thing in isolation doesn't wash.
Andy, FSG out, FSG are the enemy at the moment. It's, you know, it's a hot topic, yeah.
Well, I actually thought that was finished with. I mean, I knew, you know, the dust is kind of settled now, and I think people are looking back and how stupid was that to kind of go with as a way to sort these problems out. But Klopp kind of knocked that on the head by saying that's not really the way forward. You know, people need to be united together in the direction the club is going. it seems to me like people were fooled into something different than they weren't just investors. Like, did people actually believe that these guys were one of us? I mean, I've supported them as owners because I think their ambitions align with our ambitions more often than other owners. And they've got us to places that we wanted, that people believed they wouldn't get us to. But this whole FSG out notion, what is it people demand? They want investors to come in who are charity, who are going to stick to the very, very strict nature of the whole club's ethos. Any billionaire owner was going to opt into that fucking European Super League notion. Every one of them. I mean, people, the type of owners that are FSG outists are craving did it as well. So forget it. That's what we signed up for now. As John Barnes says, these billionaire owners don't need to learn how football works. It's fans need to learn how billionaire owners in a modern game work. And that's it. Unless we hit a big reset button, which I'd love.
The one thing you could say, and this is, I want to link this back to the whole, do we deserve top four in a way? Before the whole Super League fiasco, in January, this started to rear its head about FSG's, management, because of what was going on in that January transfer window, because we were showing signs of needing to bolster our numbers, not in particular the centre back, and we get to the very last knock-ins of the window before we act. Has their kind of approach and their lack of ambition, shall we say, come home to roost in terms of us not getting top four and us having to play Europa League football next season?
Do you mean when they weren't acting in January, where they got one eye on what was brewing? Yeah, I'd say that had a big major role. Look, what the pandemic has shown is how, like, football is a false economy as it is. Like, shit can come crashing down really quickly. You know what I mean? You buy a player for 50 million and he doesn't work out. Like, when would you ever spend 50 million on anything for it to be worthless in a couple of years later? But I think what the pandemic has shown is no matter how much of a sustainable financial model you have, something can happen that you get down 200 million, 250 million of a revenue stream in 12 months. You know what I mean? That's how quickly these things can happen. So to protect their asset, to protect the future of what they've invested in, it made total sense. And maybe they were just looking at that as a formality. When it all got announced, they couldn't understand it. I thought something is up here, something's wrong. Like, none of this makes sense. Nobody's going to go for this. How could such intelligent people with their money be so far apart than what fans want? But that must have been what was going on. I don't know. But look, this conversation is going to come back, and eventually there will be some sort of departure from UEFA and the way the football as we know it is at the moment. Clubs are starting to gain more and more power than the regulators themselves, and they want the total departure from it. And it's just going to happen. Either there's a big reset in football, and people decide that they're happy enough to not having the best players in the world coming to England anymore, and they're happy to go back to the way it was years and years ago when the league was. No, it's not going to happen. But that's the only way football kind of repairs itself. But we're old school now. I don't think there's an appetite for our type of, fucking stupid word, legacy fans. There is the younger fan. The lads touched on it last night, and it's a really good point. Yeah, kids coming up now, they don't really support football in the tribal way as we did when we were growing up. They're kind of supporting players, and they're supporting like flashy things, and the way you can get things so easy now, like in their FIFA, you just build a team of fantasy players, and there is this expectation that can just happen. And look, I've no doubt in my mind that
Andy,
this shit.
Andy, Andy, the stuff that you see out of these self-appointed union and club spokespeople groups, right? And people aren't going to like this, right? But like, I don't like unions. I don't like unionizations of stuff, right? That I'm not on board with half the stuff that's being put out there between open letters and stuff from SOS demanding representation and stuff like that. And that goes across the board for fans. I absolutely agree with fans getting together when there's a disservice or something bad being done. But when you read some of the stuff that's being put out there, being a travesty to the club and stuff like that, that wasn't a travesty. It was a wrong move by the owners. Andy is right. There's no way they're going to be left outside. Bayern were happy to be left outside because Bayern dominate their league and don't give a shite about having any competition in their own league. And they've done to German football what the ESL was going to do to European football. And Bayern were happy to stand outside in what was left of a Champions League and dominate that competition and call themselves European champions. They don't care about it being a real competition or not. They were happy just to be the biggest fish in the smallest pond they could possibly be, right? So in reality, when we get back to the idea of legacy fans, whatever, I find it very disingenuous that any fan group can claim to represent the whole fan body, because there was people who thought, well, actually, I don't want to see Liverpool outside a Super League. I don't want to see Liverpool outside. Some of us had read into the new Champions League structure and thought, this is an absolute cat's abortion of a tournament. Like, why would we, like, if you think the Super League is bad, wait till you see how bad this new Champions League is. And your man Seferin is already talking about that they're going to go back and renegotiate about this new UEFA Champions League because the clubs that are in aren't even happy about it. So, like, there was no perfect. This whole thing is the media being led a dance and fans being led a dance by the media. The media didn't give a shit about fans. They didn't give a shit about fans when the tickets were being overpriced. They didn't give a shit about fans when the fans couldn't get tickets to go to see Champions League finals. They don't give a toss about fans until they want to drive their own narrative. Gary Neville being held up now as the ambassador of fans. Fuck off. Gary Neville was holding himself up to make sure his pockets were lined with gold because he needs to keep funding his version of the European Super League when it comes to Salford Town. So don't cod yourself out there that fans care, that teams are going to give voices to fans. They're not. They're absolutely not, right? And they never will.
I'm going to move this on. One last question on this topic before we get on to the fabulous Europa League. If
this topic we spoke about for about 2 minutes. Yeah.
So, if we got the lifeline of getting into the Champions League next season through some coefficient change in rules or whatever, would you be in favour or against it?
Of which now?
If there was a change in the rule, just hypothetically, if there was a change in the qualification,
that's not hypothetical. Not for this season, it's hypothetical, but that's what's coming down the road.
It is. I'm just saying, if it gave us a free pass, would you be in favour of it or against it to get us into the league, even though we finished in, say, 6th position into the Champions League?
We have to be in the Champions League every single time. Yeah. Sorry.
Listen, the reality of the situation is like the lad said, the owners made a wrong move. I was against it. I think there should be jeopardy in league football because other than that you're playing glorified friendlies. If, for instance, the season goes like the last 2 or 3 where, well, obviously there was the title race a couple of years ago, but last season we ran away with it. City have run away with it to a certain degree this season. If the jeopardy has gone out of that with the Champions League places, you're playing glorified friendlies maybe from fucking January to May. I don't like that. But at the same time, these fan groups and certain fan groups or whatever, if we were the bastion and we said, listen, we're not going to go into it, and the other 5 went into it and this thing took off, there'll be uproar with our fans going, why are we standing here holding our flutes playing the Premier League when all these are off playing in the European Super League, and why didn't we go into it, and how come we aren't in it, and blah blah blah, and why can't we sign this player? Well, because he's fucking going off to play in the European Super League. So Phil is right, like, don't cod yourself as the owners looked at this and went, do we want to be in this or do we want to be from the outside looking in? And they said, fuck it, we'll take a chance, we want to be in this if this is happening. And listen, I get the uproar. Like I said, I was against it. I like jeopardy, a Premier League football, having something to play, something on your games week in and week out, having to go and get results to whatever, albeit a flawed system in the top 4. But like, let's be honest, if the owners like the owners were given a choice. Do you want in or do you want out? Of course, they're going to say they want in.
But Shane, can I just throw something in here? And I think this would really, if you really wanted to drive the product of the Premier League as the place to go watch and the place to go do things, right? And they really wanted to drive change, right? Scrap the third and fourth place guaranteed Champions League spots and create a playoff situation from third to sixth every year, that the teams go in and play against each other for the two finalists get into the Champions League and the next two get into the Europa League, or do 8 and you could have like a top 8 and go down to a final and have an imaginary trophy that's there. That gives an end of season feel to all these type of things that we're talking about, and it actually means that you win something. It's not just a case of here's where it is and it gives you a playoff, because you're not going to do it with the league in terms of who wins the league, right? Second place is runners up, and they deserve to get into the Champions League more so than third and fourth. I just think if you want to do something and talk about 39th match and something for the fans, wouldn't it be great if you had a weekend at the end of the season? Like, people need to get over this. The FA Cup means nothing these days. The League Cup means nothing. I didn't even know the League Cup was on at the weekend, right? If you had a playoff situation where the teams got in to a final at the end and you had a final and you used one of the trophies, I don't know, use the League Cup. Let's call it the League Cup. And the winner of the League Cup is the winner of this playoff situation. Imagine how much money that would drive from a television perspective, from a club's perspective, and you could do something for the fans. Imagine you say, right, we're going to cap these tickets for this tournament. We're going to play it over the 5 stadiums in London or whatever it is. You use Spurs' brand new stadium, you use Arsenal stadium, you use Wembley to play these games in a week spell at the end of the season, and you give something back to the fans to say, here you go, a lovely little tournament at the end of each year where you have something that's not just who wins the league. You throw the focus back on it and it determines who goes into what spots. I think
that kind of concept and that scenario has actually happened somewhere. It's in the back
Holland.
of my mind. And it was in Holland, is it? Mm-hmm. Okay. I mean, I'd be well up for that, I guess.
Look, the Champions League has been. Sorry, Ray. Sorry.
No.
The Champions League has been devalued. It's been a slow death to it. I mean, there was a time I can remember. There was, you got into it if you won the league, and then there was the top 2, and then there was the top 3, and they gave the top 4. And this kind of happened slowly. And I'd say around 2004, 2005, maybe when we won it, the Champions League was very glamorous. Like it was a real sweet spot then. I mean, it was. I'd watch every single game. Look, this is just from a personal perspective, but I thought it seemed very prestigious at the time. But it's been a slow death to it there, and I think, Jesus, it is on its knees now. It's not the spectacle it was. It's people are bored with it. It does need a freshen up. So these big clubs that see it, they know it's coming down the tracks and it's happening anyway. But they just want it as theirs. You know what I mean? As opposed to UEFA robbing all the cash. So it's happening anyway. It's coming down the tracks. It's just a matter of time.
I think you can roughly predict, can't you, that every season is going to be, by the time you get to the semi-finals now, you can kind of, quarterfinals, semi-finals, you can kind of guess how many teams from what countries. You can guess there's going to be 3 or 4 Premier League teams. You can guess there's going to be a couple of Spanish teams, a couple of German teams, PSG, or a couple of French teams. Like it does tend to be the same old kind of games as you get towards the end of the tournament, and it is slanted that way. Let's face it. It isn't really set up in such a way that you can really have a massive surprise package coming through and doing some serious damage, sort of thing. So look, we'll move it on. Europa League. Just
Ray, before you go on, like I just think when it comes to the Champions League, and going back to the original point, do we deserve Champions League, right? I want to see West Ham and Leicester get into the Champions League. That's who I want to see third and fourth. If we're not in the Champions League, that's who I want to see in third and fourth, because that means that ourselves, Spurs, Chelsea, and Arsenal, the traditional ones who are going to have money to spend in the transfer market, are all going to be in the same shit situation. And the only 2 who won't will be United and City. So if you're going to have any chance of having a better go at getting back into the top 4 or going for a run against the league, you want to put the teams that won't be able to deal with it. That's the Leicesters and that's the West Hams. I don't want Chelsea in there, because Chelsea will use the Champions League to go out and attract the players that we want to attract instead of us being able to attract them. Whereas if we're all in a par and an 11 playing field, then let's have us all outside as opposed to 3 of them getting into the top 4, because that will just cement those 3 and make it harder for us to get back in.
It's actually going to be.
Chelsea have got a chance of getting in by winning the thing this season. I think that's a realistic second chance for them if they need to. But let's move on to Europa League. Talking about finals, 2022, I looked it up last night. Seville is the final of the Europa League in 2022. So look, that's something maybe we can look forward to. Europa League to me is absolutely winnable if we land in there. I presume, I was trying to find out there before we come on, I presume with the way the cup competitions have gone this season, and assuming Leicester get in there, then I presume it's going to be 5th, 6th and 7th for Europa League this season. It's definitely going to be 5th and 6th. It's just a case of whether it's going to be 7th as well. I'm not 100% sure.
I thought it was 5th anyway, automatically, and then if the winner of the FA Cup finished in the top 4, then there was the 6th place, and then there's some other thing with 7th because it's something to do with the the League Cup as well. Yeah, it gets you into the qualifiers of it in May.
So if we finish, so we potentially finish, 5th, 6th, or 7th. I don't think we want to drop down into this, this new conference league or whatever it is that's being invented for next season. So look, Europa League.
The final of that's in Talca Park, right? And just to round back onto a point that Phil, or just to bring back up Sefrin and UEFA and all that Seville stadium, we assume it's the Pizjuan stadium, Sevilla's home and not Betis. That holds about 40,000, so probably get about 2,500 tickets each for the fans, right?
So we got that ticket scramble to look forward.
Yeah, exactly.
So come on, Andy, try and give us your top red optimistic view of Europa League for next season, because it's looking likely.
Yeah, I remember years ago Tompkins wrote an article trying to actually make out that we're better off in the Europa League than the Champions League, and he put some case forward. But I don't know, like, obviously if you're ruling with your brain, your head, you're thinking, look, obviously you need to be in it. It's the next best thing. You need the money. It's a good place to kind of build again. This whole Klopp era kind of started with a really good run in the Europa League years ago, but it's the fall. It's the fall back that hurt. You know what I mean? It was good at the time. It sounds cocky, but this team are just too big for it now. Someone needs to talk me into feeling like it's a good thing to be in the Europa League again. As my heart certainly isn't in it. We were talking about how the Champions League is so devalued now. The Europa League, it's just going to feel like an absolute joke. Maybe it's the punishment that some of the players need, that they have to play their football there. But for me, it's like, if you were invited to the afters of a wedding, you know what I mean? You look for any excuse to get out of it. This is the afters of the Champions League. This is the dregs. The bus arrives in, for finger food, and we're just like battling it out with shit across all over Europe. I would sooner a run in the League Cup or the FA Cup than this, because the graft that goes into trying to get to Seville, those group games all over mad parts of Europe that nobody even knew existed. And then, when it gets to the knockout stages, quarterfinals, semis, it becomes fun and worthwhile. But it's getting there. Now, like, maybe there's some of the
there's actually an extra knockout, round as well. That's the other thing. Yeah. So it's more games.
Last 64 when you come out of the group, right?
Can I try talking into it?
Yeah, well, just in a second. One thing that may just be something that would drive me interest, if there is a bit of an overhaul in the summer of players, that Europa League run 15-16 was it? It did gel. did kind of bond the players. We did play some very exciting football. I think it was, one of the best nights at Anfield in the Klopp era was against Dortmund. That you never walk alone. That was amazing. We beat Man United on the way that year as well. And these were sort of games that sort of galvanized the team and started to really develop this idea that we're really on the way up. So maybe if there is a few signings made, it could be a good thing just to stay out of kind of spotlight for a season. But my heart's not in it. I don't know. I just right now, I just don't want to.
Thursday nights, the butt of all jokes.
And Sunday, and you'll always play Sunday then as well.
You will pretty much always play Sunday or Monday night.
Up until Christmas, you will. From the start of the group stage up until Christmas, you will. Look, listen, Phil, I know you're going to make a point about coefficients and stuff like that. I'll leave that to you. But, look, I have a mate who's an Arsenal fan, and he kind of says, listen, I know everyone kind of degrades and stuff like that, but he says, if you're not in the Champions League, he says, you want to be in it. He just goes, you need to be in it for money. You want to be in it. I'm not like Andy, you just listen to draw come out and you'd be away to fucking Spartak, fucking Vladikavkaz or fucking Roto Volgograd or something like that. You'd be all over the shop with them shy teams in Eastern Europe and all. But I tweeted after the Newcastle game, I put it in our group as well. Do you know what? Maybe a year in Europa is the fucking kick up the arse and the wake up call the playing staff and the management staff need to kick up the arse that they need, because listen, Salah, Van Dijk, fucking all the top players, they don't want to be walking out to that fucking Europa League anthem on a Thursday night.
What is it even?
I haven't a clue. But
it's the Wenger bus.
Yeah, they don't want to be walking out. They don't want to be walking out and playing.
It's nowhere near as exciting as that
in front of that anthem. So, but look, when you getting out of the group and getting into some knockout football is always exciting, and you'll always look forward to a draw and then click by the rounds from the last 64 to the last 42 and all. But listen, it like Phil has alluded to before, the Cats of Arsenal, the 2024 Champions League, and Phil is going to, I know, eloquently tell us why we do need to keep the Europa to take it serious.
There's more to it than just that, Shane, right? So one, the same people who will rubbish the Europa will hold up the FA Cup as a tournament and a trophy worth winning. It's not. It's something that you piss in when you're stuck to go to the Jack somewhere, right? It's not. It's nobody cares about it. The only people that care about it is the BBC and Gary Lineker. In world football, nobody cares about the FA Cup. In the same way that none of us care about the Spanish Cup, none of us care about the Serie A Cup, none of us care about the Bundesliga Cup unless there's absolutely nothing else on television. When football is on every single night of the week, nobody cares about the FA Cup, right? Nobody cares about the FA Cup. People need to realise this. People care about Europe. Because when it comes down to a European final at the end of the season, people tune in. I remember watching the semi-final. Rangers were playing against some mad team it must be about 11 years ago at this stage, and there was madness in it. And I remember just sitting there going, this is a mad game to watch. We played Alaves in what was the UEFA Cup final. That was one of the maddest finals I've ever seen. The Europa final tends to have some mad games. Even our Seville game, when we played Seville and we went 1-0 up and we ended up losing 3-1, that's a mad game. You don't get that type of stuff in most normal games. Yes, it's a poxy competition with 5 million rounds and 5 million group stages. But if you think that's bad, wait till you see what the new Champions League looks like. That's all I'm going to say to you, right? One group with 32 teams playing 10 random fixtures. And if you don't think an organisation as corrupt as UEFA isn't going to have hot balls in there and making sure that they get the picks that they want to go on, you're mad, right? So you've got the coefficient bit. I think the coefficient thing is going to be scrapped in the Champions League because of the uproar that's going on about it. But on the Europa side, we have 6 games in the group stage, right? 3 away, 3 at home. If you win your 3 home matches, you can send Klopp's kids and his real kids, not the under 19 team or something. Send them to play the away matches because they don't matter. Yeah, don't send a single first team player that's going to play in the league match at the weekend. And I go as far as saying, if I'm Klopp, I don't even travel to those away games. I focus on winning the home matches because it's the same strain on your on your league run as playing in the League Cup is the famous domestic cup. It's the same strain as having to play a midweek FA Cup match in the second half of the season is on your domestic piece. We're talking about 3 games before Christmas. And then after that, as Shane says, once you're into knockout competition, it doesn't matter who the knockout is, suddenly the stakes get raised. And we do want to keep our coefficient up. We do want to keep it up so as that when we get to getting back into the Champions League and we're seeded in groups, that we're in one of the better seeds, so as we don't end up in a group with Bayern Munich and Real Madrid and ourselves, and it's a real fight to get out of those groups. All these things matters. And the other thing, this Conference League, that scares me. The Europa League I can find, because the other piece of the Europa League that people completely forget and completely miss the point here is the FA Cup. You win the FA Cup, you get in the Europa League. You win the League Cup, you get in the European Conference League. You win the Europa League, you get in the Champions League.
Yes.
There's only 2 routes into the Champions League. Finish in the top 4 in your league, or win the Europa League. Oh, sorry, 3, win the Champions League, but you have to be in the Champions League to win the Champions League to stay in it. So the only 2 routes in for the team that's not starting off in the Champions League every season is the Europa League or your league position. If you win the FA Cup, it's Europa. You win the Coca-Cola Cup, you're into the Europa Pepsi Conference Max Superstar GM Conference League, right? So like that's what you end up in. So when people say, the Europa, ignore that and focus on the FA Cup, Klopp is absolutely right to have no interest in a domestic cup. It gets him nothing.
But it's not really Klopp though, is it, Phil? Like, I mean,
no, it's the fans' unions telling us what we have to think and what we have to do. Like,
no, I mean, like, there's Kevin Ball, right? Honestly, Klopp not taking Cup seriously has really pissed me off every year. Now, this isn't Klopp. This comes down from above, and it's the same with every owners. There's no money in these competitions, so they're setting their objectives for their managers. They're setting their managers' targets at the beginning of every season. They're saying, like, don't put like.
They're not mentioned in the FA Cup and the domestic cups.
They don't even feature
targets yet.
Yeah. I can't imagine
they don't even feature
even in the play. We know Liverpool like to go in for heavily incentivized contracts. You can't imagine that there's much incentives in those contracts linked back to Carabao Cups or FA Cups. Put it that way.
And this is where like it's happened in a sneaky way. Like over the years, we've become convinced that the League Cup and the FA Cup mean nothing. The only reason they don't mean nothing anymore is because there's no money, and this is controlled by the billionaire owners who came into the Premier League in '95 or whatever and onwards. But in actual fact, they're still the competitions that are deeply ingrained in our history. You know what I mean? And SOS or whoever, you know, people that are very entitled on Twitter now can write open letters and tell people what they think. And we see Kevin there, like it's Klopp that's pissed him off. But in actual fact, this has been part of the transition that's football has slowly happened in the last 20 years. And people are only
not even bothering to go in the FA Cup one year.
Yeah. And people are only biting back now because the owners of these clubs have blatantly stepped up and says, all right, everyone, we've been in the backgrounds for a while now, but here we are, and we're here to take over completely in your face. You know what I mean? When would you ever thought the day where people are going to step up above the governing bodies of the game, above FIFA, above UEFA, above the Premier League? And boy, God, are they shitting themselves, because look at the reaction. Look at how they've got the media to respond to all of this. But that FA Cup, make no bones about it. If we get into an FA Cup final, which is a hell of a lot easier to do than to get to Europa League final, and the pain that goes with it, I'll enjoy that day, because I do miss lifting that.
Yeah,
but look,
I won't even watch it.
No, but I think
because that's modern football is convinced you of that.
Yeah, no, but it's not. It's modern football. Look, it's like what you're. It's actually. I'm agreeing with your point, I suppose, with this example is, Andy. Look, like Louis van Gaal won an FA Cup for United. He was sacked nearly when he came off the steps after the match. Van Gaal won 3 and 4 years or 3 and 5 years while finishing top 4 all them times, and the fans nearly burned the fucking Emirates to the ground to get him out of there. So it doesn't. It like even with fans and owners, it doesn't mean anything. Like there's two major clubs that after winning the so-called best domestic cup you can win in world football, and the two managers got sacked within. Well, the Wenger one was coming. Van Gaal won an FA Cup, sacked fucking a week later, and Wenger won 3 of them in 4 years and was also pushed out the door.
Darren Dunbar makes the point there. The last time, essentially, the FA Cup was the second trophy was when the European ban was in place, and there was no European Cups or UEFA Cups that could be won by the English teams. And I guess that prolonged the attraction to the FA Cup. But really, coinciding obviously with 92 in the Premier League and the money, it diminished very quickly. The one thing I would say about again, if we're on the subject of, some things that that the owners maybe can give back to the fans, let's hope that they at least have some kind of ticketing scheme next season that encourages, younger fans, families, whatever, to get to these Europa League matches, because there'll be quite a few of them. And we hear a lot around ticket pricing and all that sort of stuff. At least if they can get kids back engaged, young fans back engaged at like 30 quid a ticket or whatever it is, 25 quid a ticket, at least that will hopefully be seen in a positive light, and we can use this hopefully one season out of the Champions League to gain a bit of credit back with the fans from the owners.
Question to you, lads: what English team has won the most European Cups?
Which what? Sorry.
What English team and which English team has won its most European Cups?
What do you mean? If you add up the Cup Winners' Cup, the Europa?
No. You're just the European Cup, the Champions League, whatever you want to call it. It's the European Cup.
Liverpool.
It's us. Yeah, many have we won.
Liverpool,
yeah.
Six.
And what English team has the second most European Cups?
I presume it's United.
United 3.
What English team has won the most FA Cups?
Arsenal.
And who's won the second? Who's won the second most?
Say United.
See, there you go. You can answer definitively on the Champions League one, but you can't do it on the FA Cup one. Do you know why? Because nobody gives a fuck and answers my question. Right? Focus on Europe. Don't focus on it. But there's a larger point, right? Is that Liverpool's unique selling point over the whole year, our USP, is that European trophies are embedded in our legacy, are embedded in what we do. We've won more European trophies than we have won FA Cups, right? And that when you add in the Champions League, the Super Cups, but even the UEFA Cups and the Champions League gives us more than we've won FA Cups. And I'm telling you now, that's what makes Liverpool unique. And that's why we're so well known and so well renowned around Europe, because we always turn up in European finals. And it's huge.
European royalty and all that, Phil. And look, there was a time when the UEFA Cup was of value because it was the also-rans. It was you met some big teams in the UEFA Cup because the same teams couldn't win the Italian League every year or the Spanish League. So the
Champions League was only a couple of places probably then as well. Like one, you were the champion every second.
That's why I don't really agree with that point about in the 80s. The only reason the FA Cup was number 2. Okay, it was the only reason it was number 2, but everybody got a chance at winning the FA Cup. In the 80s, only one team went forward to the old European Cup. But I mean, the way it sits at the moment, this Europa League, like whatever about the Champions League letting everyone in, this rot like started years ago. And I mean, people are only coming to terms of how competitive football isn't anymore. It's fucking shite.
Andy's gone, Ray. He's gone. That's it. He's gone. Head gasket.
Welcome to the swamp.
Give Gav a ring. Tell him to order more head gasket fluid.
Fluids on order. Shit. 2 to 3 working days.
I should stop listening to our podcast. That's what's happened.
Here, can I tell you something? Do you know who killed the FA Cup? Gary Neville. Do you remember when he was part of that the United team that pissed off and they didn't bother turning up for the FA Cup that year? So if you want to blame who's killed the FA Cup, Gary Neville, and who's going to kill the Champions League, Gary Neville. So that's who you need to blame out there.
No, Phil. And the brilliant part of that was United were told to go to that tournament because it'd give them the wink and a nudge and getting the World Cup bid that they didn't fucking get then a couple of years later.
Very true. Yep. So look, we'll move on to the one of the reasons we're even having a conversation now about Europa League is one of the things that's become apparent, with the absence of Van Dijk, big chunk of time missing from Jordan Henderson, and really, I guess the third in command in terms of leaders on the pitch being James Milner, and you've seen a fairly heavy reliance on James Milner for a number of games, probably because of his organisation and his leadership skills. But Davo, this is your one. This season, it's been apparent, hasn't it, that in terms of leaders on the pitch, without those three, I think we're down to making Gini Wijnaldum captain, and all due respect, he's not that type of person, is he? He's not a shouter. He's not really someone who's trying to kind of bark orders at people. He seems like a fairly quiet, goes about his business in a very kind of methodical way, sort of thing. It's been seriously lacking, hasn't it, this season? Leadership.
Yeah, look, it's like I'd normally try and do a bit of research for a topic or anything, but I haven't done that. This is purely kind of an emotional one from me tonight, because I'm not joking you. Saturday, like when that game finished on Saturday, it's probably the worst I felt in quite a while after a game. Like that really knocked me sick. Kind of like 99 Old Trafford FA Cup injury time defeat kind of fucking vibes, Dicko. Like I was knocked for sick, and the killer was like, you're after getting away with it with a bullshit handball VAR.
I know.
You got away with one. Like Klopp even alluded to it after the game. Probably the first time VAR shone on us for a bit of luck, and we didn't take it. We give them a goal then straight away. And I suppose, look at me. Topic was more leaders. I could be way off with this, but I kind of have a feeling that like dressing rooms are the same whether you're playing Leinster Senior League, United Churches League, the kind of Premier League,
Europa League.
Europa League. The vibes are like, the vibes will be in general. There's cliques, there's characters, you know what I mean? There's fucking whingers, there's everything like that. And I don't know, listen, I played in goal. Phil played in goal. Phil was a better keeper than me. Played at a higher level, but I know
you played for Rovers.
Yeah, I know myself. My point. I'm getting around to the point that a long-winded way, but me and Phil were volatile. If something needed to be said, it got said, and I just can't. I can't understand why after the week that's after going down, where you ship 2 goals late in the game, that's at the cost in Champions League football, that there's not fellas getting fucking held up by the throat in the dressing room, going and being called out. Why didn't you do this? You didn't do your job, and just like, but it's not happening because, as we said, Phil made the point earlier, we've lost X amount of points, 15 or something like that, from winning positions after the 75th minute. So we're not learning. Nobody is learning. Nobody is taking this team with a scruff of the neck. Nobody is taking any leadership. Yes, Milner's come in the last couple of games, or games he's been needed. I thought he's have to be played quite well. He shored things up a little bit, stopped the going end to end the weekend. But listen, Andy Robertson was out quoted in a statement today saying, listen, Liverpool are a Champions League team and we're going to fight to the end. Like, he lost the header to Dwight Gale that led to the goal. Dwight Gale fucking beat Andy Robertson to flick on the header for the goal. Like, stop coming out with statements and go and win the fucking header. Then we win the game 1-0 and we move on. It's just, like, I was lucky enough to get to a couple of games last year, and they were. We beat West Ham by beat West Ham 3-2, and we beat Brighton 2-1 after Alisson got sent off. And you never thought that we weren't going to see the games out. You always thought we were going to see the game out and get the win and move on, because fucking you had big characters there to get you through. But that goal, listen, I think we all knew, or certainly the fucking from behind the couch anyway, I definitely knew Saturday this is coming. Like, you cannot keep missing them chances, and they were just creeping back into it. The game was so open. You know, Phil mentioned Alisson being a top 6 keeper this year. I actually think Alisson's actually been very good the last 2 games, because we might have lost the 2 of them. Only for him. But yeah, listen, it's more an emotive subject for me the weekend, because like I said, I was knocked for fucking 6 after that. I was puking for us to not see that game out. So just whatever whatever you think on it yourselves. Where are the leaders? Why haven't they been there? Why does it keep happening?
Well, I mean, one player you mentioned there, Davo, is Andy Robertson. Andy Robertson's the captain of Scotland. I'm a little bit
quite
surprised.
a few of them are captains of their countries, right?
Yeah, I'm quite surprised, and we've seen certain aspects of Andy Robbo's game. He has got the nasty sort of bit about him, and I'm a little bit surprised that he maybe isn't. Once you get through those three lads I discussed at the start of the topic, that he wasn't kind of next man up. Alisson's not, often your goalkeeper can be very vocal. Alisson doesn't seem to be that type of really shouty, vocal goalkeeper that you give the captain's armband to at all. Andy, like Robbo, I mean, he's pretty much an ever present, so he would kind of fit the bill. Are you a little bit surprised that maybe he hasn't sort of stepped up into that role?
Yeah, I mean, only we know what the players are like, or only the management and the other players know what other players are like. You know what I mean? What for us? I mean, put it out there, all of us here. What are the leadership, the most important leadership traits of a professional footballer?
Well, I guess unless you've been in that position, it's a hard one to say, isn't it? I mean, look, at the end of the day, I think there's the aspect of being vocal, is a big one for me. And like Robbo definitely strikes me as being that type, someone who can organise and marshal the back line in particular as well. I mean, that's a big thing that we miss from Van Dijk, and someone who's got the trust of the manager as well. I mean, I would have expected, to be plenty of players there who Klopp, would look to lean on and depend on. But maybe he does just have those. He has just had those core three that he's all of his mentorship and leadership sort of qualities and tried to mold them three. And the fact that all three of them aren't on the pitch quite a lot, maybe that's sort of come back to bite him.
Yeah. So I would have thought Robbo was one. But I think on the pitch, an effective communicator, a calm head to say the right things at the right time. People that don't like Henderson will say he's always pointy and shouting. That's what you see on Match of the Day, is a few fingers being pointed. But we don't know what he's saying. Is he passing on the instructions that the manager's being given all week? Is he an intelligent player on the pitch? Okay, he might not be the most gifted with the but he seems to be recognised as a really, really strong leader. We see the stuff he does off the pitch now. With what's going on social media. We see the things he stepped in last year with the COVID payments, and he stepped in just with the ESL starting, so he seems to be very aware of his responsibilities. So there you have two really strong leadership traits: an effective communicator and somebody who's responsible and is prepared to be accountable. And maybe, I mean, last year I would have said, like, I've wrote down some players. Like, I would have thought Alisson would be a good captain. I would have thought Robbo, Trent, Virgil, obviously, Ginny, Fabinho, Hendo, obviously, Salah, captains his country. Firmino's captain Brazil at times. Mane's captain's country. Milner. But maybe they aren't as good as we thought. Maybe they're good leaders by example. But as far as captains go, it's shown this year when we needed someone to drag us out of the trenches. There hasn't been anyone really. Milner's been about the closest to that.
I mean, often captains of countries are kind of figureheads. They're the best player. Someone who, people aspire to be, to look up to. That they kind of they want to reach that position that particular player has. I mean, for you, Phil, is there anyone for you that you thought, okay, I'm a bit disappointed that they haven't kind of stepped up and dragged us out of certain situations? I mean, it's been apparent, hasn't it, that the one thing we haven't had this season is we haven't had the ability to fight and come back from adversity in game. Lads talked last night about in-game management. For me, it's more about us reacting to bad situations in games. Like, are you disappointed on that aspect as much as anything else around this season?
I'm sick to death of people looking for something to blame. This is the latest in a long line of that's to blame for why we're shit this season. That's the reason for why we're shit. The new narrative is to switch it now onto Klopp. Klopp is to blame for why we're shit this season. I mean, I'm seeing it coming through in the chats. Look at Klopp, he's sitting down and he's not involved anymore in the last 10 minutes. Like, it's the most...
Would you not say that Klopp normally is standing on the touchline?
I'll get into that in a second, Andy, but the idea at this moment, we are hurting as a fan base. Most people are, in terms of what's gone on, right? And we're looking for a reason as to what's going to fix this. Where we need a leader. We get VVD, we get Van Dijk back with a leader. We get Hendo back with a leader. That changes everything. All of a sudden, we stop losing games with 10 minutes to go and 15 minutes to go, and we're back and we're the best team in the world. No, this is deeper. It's not just about a leadership thing. So we talk about it. It's these players, yeah. Robertson is an experienced captain. Mane is an experienced captain. Mo's an experienced captain. And they all have captain qualities. And Mo was pissed off, if you remember, after that Midgetland game where he didn't get the captaincy he wanted. That to me, I'm there going, the question mark I have over giving Wijnaldum the captaincy, I just don't see the point. You're tough for this guy out at the end of the season. You don't think he has the value in why he's there. I don't even start him at this point of the season. Not when you've got your whole season riding on it. And he's been a great servant to us, but I don't give him the captaincy and I don't start him. I'd say, okay, look, thanks for everything you've done. It's time now to move on because you're not going to be here next season. So when I look at it, like in reality for me, who do I give the captaincy to? So you look around and you say, okay, is it going to be a vocal leader? There's only so many vocal leaders on the team. And in my mind, you're probably looking at Phillips there as being the most vocal of the players that's in it. But are you going to give Phillips the captaincy? No, you're not. So you probably then need to find somebody who's going to lead by example. What player has put this team on his back and carried them for the best part of 6 months? And that's Salah. That's where I go to with the captaincy all the time and say, right, you've carried us. It's now time. We recognise that you're carrying us and we're going to respond to what you do for us on the pitch. And he scores at the weekend. We're giving out the front three not scoring goals. He scores again. That's another 20 goals in the Premier League goals in the bag going into this season. He's delivered on what he has to do. And you say, right, because you can turn around as manager, you can turn around, you can say, see that? That's what you're expected of. No matter how bad this season has gone on, that's what's expected of you. That's what you need to do. Stop looking for excuses. Stop giving reasons for why that didn't happen or I made a mistake or I turned off, whatever. You go, that's it. If he can do it, I expect at least 7 to 8 of you can do it. If 7 to 8 of you can do it in every game, even for these last 5 games, we can still make top 4. And I know it's simplifying it and breaking it down, but I just think at times you can see that this team itself, like the fan base, is searching for that simple answer that suddenly moves it back from being the shit team to being the brilliant team again and that electric team. And you got that feeling when they won those couple of games in London that they started to think themselves, yeah, we can go. And then they went back to Anfield and they were kick. And so I do think there's a bit of everything, but there's not one thing. So when Shane says about the leadership part, there's an element of truth in that, but there's also an element of truth in it that Firmino has been crap for 2 seasons and he still gets picked all the time. There's also the element that Mane, since he had COVID and that international break, has been absolute dog shite, right? There's also the element in it that Thiago hasn't fit properly into the thing. There's also the element in it that Klopp has got a lot of things wrong this season. There's also the element in it that we're making a lot of big chances and not scoring them, which is completely different to what we've done over the previous 2 to 3 seasons. There's not just one answer here. There are so many things to solve that we're not going to solve them all. And the leader part will solve itself. And the big part for me was the last time we had this, and I know we got into my top, but the last time we had this, we had to go and bring players in to instill that leadership talent into the squad, with the exception of Henderson, right? And I think that we do need to refresh. If we're going to Milner to get there, then we do need someone else to naturally step in as the captain in the absence of Henderson, because Henderson's over 30 now, Milner's over 45. And like we need somebody else that's going to be there, that's 25, 26. And I don't mind it. If they turn around and say Curtis Jones, because of what he represents to the younger group of players. Or Trent, you know, people say, oh, if you give him the form that Trent has been in. No, maybe that really, really drives Trent on to do something incredibly special because of what's there, right? I know, for Andy Cheese, you're wrong, Phil. The one answer is COVID. It's not. It's one of the answers. It's not one answer. It's one of the answers, because COVID has only elements to it. We lost against Atletico Madrid in the Champions League before COVID happened, before all this happened. We lost against Watford in the league before all this happened. And the same symptoms in those defeats that happened are the same things that are killing us now. Uncharacteristic mistakes, being easy at the back and crossfield balls, long diagonals opening up the channels behind the fullbacks. Those things existed before we got into any pandemic breaks. So we've got to look at, there's a whole holistic piece that says, if you want to fix the jigsaw, you've got to find the pieces. And at the moment, we dump the jigsaw down the back of the chairs, and we're still trying to find 5 or 6 pieces of it. And it's like they're big pieces. And that's just, in my mind, when it comes to leadership, it's not just leadership, but it's one of the elements that needs to be resolved when we go into next season.
Yeah, Mohammed's in agreement with you there, Phil. Spot on. He says, Phil for Buvac role. Mo deserves it, honestly does. And Kumar is saying that everyone's lost their energy. It's a vicious cycle. It has become a bit of a vicious cycle. Get to the end of the season and start again. It's become a bit of a self-fulfilling prophecy at this point, hasn't it? I think, you know, you're saying there, Phil, like, you know, the excuses now, there is a long list, isn't it? You know, they have turned into excuses from, and we know COVID is the underlying reason for some of these factors, but, you know, crowds, like, initially I was willing to sort of give us a certain, you know, pass on because the crowds were so effective. But look, everyone's been playing without crowds for like over a season now. Everyone really has kind of got to the point now where they're on a level playing field with that sort of stuff. Everyone's had time to readjust to this. So I don't think we should be using crowds as an excuse any longer. It's a weak excuse now for not seeing out a game against a team like Newcastle. And you know, conceding essentially 2 goals in injury time, like because there isn't a crowd there. It's inexcusable. But we'll move on to the mentality, I guess. What this season, the kind of the scar, the mental scars, maybe how quickly those scars can heal, and obviously that's onto your topic, Phil. I mean, we've touched on some of the reasons, some of what's happened this season that we assume won't be an excuse for us next season. We should see a decent amount of fans back in the stadium come August. We should have some of those key players back come August. We will have the semblance of a rest of some sorts. I know there's tournaments in the summer. We will see a pre-season that resembles something that we're used to seeing in normal times. So a lot of these reasons and excuses won't be there anymore. Yeah,
I was just writing down them excuses there.
Hey, you can write an article for us.
No, so we've just quite a few excuses there.
So let's assume that they get themselves a good therapist in the summer. But
we can't, Ray. And this was the point of this topic, right? Mentality impact is not something that gets solved by a signing or one signing or 2 signings. We saw for years the impact mentality in itself as being such a drag on this club and getting it over the line. Think of all the near misses we had. We're going back as far as Roy Evans with the team that should have won the league but ended up finishing 5th. Then you have Gerard Houllier. He gets as close as he can as runners up but can't get over the line. You get to 08-09 and you look at Rafa gets us very close, and the fall off happens the following season, 13-14. If you look at 13-14 and we should have won the league, we didn't.
Yeah. And
then the fall off from 14-15 is almost identical to this. We don't talk about it, right? Then you get to what happened with Klopp, and one of the joyous things about what Klopp managed to do with this team and this club and these fans was that he changed the way we looked at games. We stopped believing that something horrible was going to happen to us, and we started realizing that we could compete at the very top end. And when Newcastle turned up, we were going to beat them. whether it was 1-0 or 16-0, we were going to beat them. When we went to West Brom, we were going to stick our feet up their arses and use them as football pitches all over until they just went off and crawled into their holes and came back out of. That's all gone. And the impact of losing, if we can go to a West Brom and not beat them, the Newcastle game, you know the way we were talking about that Mane chance where he misses it, right? Yeah. I go back to the Newcastle game just after Christmas. And Mane misses an open goal when he gets pulled down by the goalkeeper. Do you remember he doesn't go to the deck and he misses it? Yeah. Like you go back to these key moments and you realize that, Jesus Christ, this is not just a moment in isolation. So you look at what is the long-term impact, because to build a mentality doesn't take 2 or 3 games. It can take a season or 2 seasons or 3 seasons to really get the players drilled and believe that, again, that they are the best team at what they do week in, week out. But that mentality can be destroyed in a season, because when teams get used to losing, they start looking. It goes back to Shane's point just a few minutes ago. It goes back to looking for excuses. We've no leaders. The referees did this. The referees did that. You know, there's no fans in the stadium. Klopp likes it when there's fans. It doesn't have the same atmosphere. Where front three aren't scoring, they'll start scoring next season. When we get the fans back in, if we don't start off with a 17-0 win in our first game back, straight away, the fans themselves are going to be questioning what's going on here. We're back in the stadium and we haven't won a match. The players are going to start asking themselves, why haven't we won? We've got the fans back. Van Dijk comes back into the team. We don't win his first 10 games in a row. People are saying, well, maybe it wasn't Van Dijk. They're all the levers that happens with the idea of mentality in football matches. It basically builds and builds and builds and builds and builds and builds. And then the questions happen. So what is this impact? Because implosion in the season needs a refresh to remove the characteristics that were there beforehand.
What is Shane doing? Are you on the line?
Shane, have you got something going on there?
Davo station there.
Davo station.
The freeze there, do we?
No, I didn't. You're scrolling with your mouse by the sounds of it. We wondering what are the activities you've got on the go.
But this, like, again, barely the back doors. But like, again, you keep asking yourself, look at what happened with United. And I hate using this example, but look at what happened when Ferguson was at United. Teams didn't like going to Old Trafford right the way up until he left, because they never had a season where they completely crumbled, right? Yeah. Look what happened as soon as David Moyes comes into Old Trafford. Teams didn't fear going there, and I've never feared going there again in the same situation as what was there. Building this is so fundamental. Building that base at home where you win and win and win and win and win is so fundamental to building a mentality. That, to me, is the biggest question mark that we have going into next season. It's not leadership. It's how we rebuild a winning mentality in this squad.
Sorry, I'm just adding VAR onto the list of excuses. Go ahead.
It was brought up. You can add that on. Yeah, you can definitely add that on. Yeah. Dodgy referees, VAR. Yeah. Project Big Picture didn't help as well, Andy. You might be able to add
Project Big Picture.
then Project European Super League.
Well, that's still to be decided. I was actually shocked they disallowed that Callum Wilson goal, given that we were so bold in the week before.
I think the players were very charitable, just to show they were still on side with the fans by letting them score the exact same goal straight after that one. VAR is wrong. Go and do it again. We'll do the same stuff again.
Yeah. We'll give you a legal goal this time. I mean, look, Mohammed makes a really good point there, Andy. It's like the morning after, isn't it? I mean, we put so much into winning that league, and obviously the points tallied the season before and winning the Champions League. The one thing that sort of saddens me really, and it's expanding on what Phil said, is the fact that we got to that point, didn't we, where we felt, particularly at home, we'd made Anfield a fortress again, when like for many years we could go there and we could watch a game and we could give away soft goals, a soft draw, lose games to teams that had no right coming to Anfield and winning games, and we'd completely got ourselves away from that. We went three and a bit years without losing a league game at Anfield. Smashing records along the way, making teams arrive at Anfield like they were beaten before they even set foot on the pitch, and if they managed to get a point, then they'd be absolutely ecstatic with it. Whereas we've lost that aura, we've lost that mentality of the opposition feeling like they're defeated. We've got to try and build it back up again. It's not something that you can suddenly replace, is it, in over the course of half a season?
I don't know. Look, Mohammed's pointed, then there was going to be a natural dip that came with winning the league, right at the top of your motivation is that self-actualization. They what they wanted for so long came to fruit. You know what I mean? This was this for Liverpool fans, for the players, for Klopp. This was the thing we needed for so long, and we didn't even get to and so you're going to have a natural dip anyway. But they didn't get to enjoy it. They didn't get to reset. They didn't get to kind of go away and think about what next year's motivation is. So, and add that onto the list of excuses.
Yeah, please do. But to be fair, we were able to do that, weren't we, in the previous summer when we won the European League and they'd got the parade and they had managed to see what it meant to the fans and they could go again.
Yeah, exactly. So, look, I think it's as humans, we like to think there's a reason for everything, and to try and make an understanding that is the thing. And I'm sure the players are doing the exact same thing. So maybe something as simple as Virgil being back around the training ground and training with the players is going to give the players the belief again that maybe that was the problem. And with Virgil back, but as Phil says, if you don't win your game straight away, but it's Klopp's job now. To do this, it's like we've so many excuses. It's like a calendar with loads of holes in it. Like he needs to plug every single one of them, all those excuses, and give the players a belief that look, we've got crowds back again. We've got the break. We've got a full preseason under our belt now. We've got COVID's gone. Everything we've to go again. And Klopp has done this. Like imagine how difficult it was for the players going all the way to the Champions League final. We got beaten by Real to mistakes, to pick them back up and go again, to finish in second in the league and picking the players back up and going again. This is Klopp's biggest challenge now, is picking the players back up off the floor. There's that natural dip, right? And there's players like Mane, who's played at such a high level for so long that it's natural that he's due and he's well entitled to a bad season. It doesn't mean it's naturally going to be the end of the cycle of Mane being a player at the top. It may be, but it may not be. But there's definitely this team still has something left in it, and we still have a manager that's well capable of lifting them up off the floor again. But that's the challenge that's ahead. I'd love if there was no international fucking thing this year, that they could prepare properly. They could kind of do what they need to do. And look, we need to see Klopp in his best kind of form again. He's had a difficult season. I don't know what the lead up to his mother passing away was like, whether she was sick for a long time, but that's taken its toll. Like there's so many things. Even if our manager is wounded, you know what I mean? And time is a good healer. We just need this season done now. And look, I'm still a top red. I still think that this team isn't finished. With a couple of signings, get rid of the deadwood that's in the kind of this squad and replace them with players that can challenge the first team. And I think we see a massive improvement again.
Davo, the signing, Andy's talking about signings there. The mentality bit, I think, it's obviously going to be a difficult one to shake. But do you think bringing in some fresh faces, some new players, just giving it a little bit of a spruce up in terms of the squad, do you think that will help just shake things off? Because he's obviously going to have to replace Wijnaldum. That's pretty much a starter every game. There's arguments to say he's got to replace Firmino. Maybe he already has, and that's kind of Jota, and Firmino sort of drops to more of a bench role next season.
Off a cliff.
But do you think part of this reset of the mentality is doing some of these things in the transfer window, and maybe being a little bit more brutal than maybe Klopp would have anticipated in terms of the squad, not rebuild, but certainly rejig?
Yeah, look, new faces always help. I think you always kind of have to freshen it up to keep players on their toes. Like Kanate looks probably like it's going to happen. Look, that seems to be the talk anyway. But yeah, like Phil said, it's not just one thing. It's kind of an awful lot of things. Do you know what I mean? I think burnout really could be, like, when you think of it, Andy alluded to the Mane and the amount of football he played. Like, Klopp doesn't really rotate. Like, if you think when he had all players fit, he'd play the same 11 every week if he could, it generally. And like, there has to come a point where that hits you. And maybe it just happens to coincide with like the drop off in form. I personally think maybe there could have been a bit of complacency that kicked in maybe around Christmas time. And I'm not talking about the players thinking, fuck this, we'll just stroll to the league. I'm not talking about that at all. I'm just thinking about, I remember just after Christmas, we came into a run of games where we were all looking at them going, geez, lads, the next 5 or 6 are all winnable. And if we can do that, putting ourselves in a great position to go on with the league, and we just shot it. We didn't fucking, we won fuck all of them. So, like, and then I think when that happens, it's very hard to get it back. You're dealing with a small bit of burnout, or you're probably dealing with more than a small bit of burnout. You have to become a slight bit complacent. You have to come off the back of a difficult run of fixtures. You're looking down the pipe at games, 6 games, where you think, yeah, we should win these games. You've West Brom and Newcastle and blah, blah, blah. Then you end up not getting the points you deserve. You're getting that bit more leggy, and then it all just comes tumbling now. I think that's kind of the way I'd see it. Maybe, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, Phil, you obviously sound like you think it's going to be a bigger mountain to climb next season than maybe a lot of fans are actually accepting or willing to kind of consider at this stage. I mean, what do you think is a successful rebound next season, given the hole we've fallen into?
Depends on where we finish, mate. Depends on where we finish. If we finish outside Europa, then there's absolutely no excuses. And when I say outside Europa, I'm including the Europa Conference League as well, right? But there's literally, you can't afford not to get Champions League. There's no excuses, right? And even at that, if they don't get into Champions League next season, people will say title challenge and stuff like that. There's no team in England has gone from finishing 425th to first in the space of a season. It just hasn't happened. Even look at what we did, with the exception of Leicester, which was a freak season, right? And it was a freak season. People need to remember that was an absolute freak season. This is a freak season as well, where you have Leicester and West Ham possibly getting into the Champions League. So next season won't be a freak season. That's what people have to remember. The traditional teams will be back where they are. You'll see Spurs with a new manager, and they'll throw whatever amount of money they've left over in their pot at it, because they know they need Champions League for that stadium. You'll have United spending another 400 billion despite them having no money in the pot to go and spend money in, because they want to be seen to be still one of the top clubs in Europe. They'll be in the Champions League. They'll bank on it. And you'll have Arsenal, who always find money because they have a big stadium there. They'll have fans coming back into the stadium that they do. And Chelsea are just Chelsea are going to back Tuchel. They'll give him as much money as he wants to rebuild that team. So in reality, I'm just looking at it saying, we need to get Champions League. We get back in Champions League, then we can go and really see where we end up, right? I don't care about domestic cups. If we get in the Europa League, I want us to win the Europa. I actually do want us to win the Europa, and I want us to get top 4. And the other thing is, I think a lot depends on what we sign, right? If we go the route of signing 5 and only 1 is actually a genuine upgrade on the starting position that we have at the moment, we're going to be in the same position this time next year, battling away for 4th place, right? If we go out and sign 3 and not worry about signing 5, and I'm talking about signing 3 players that are at least in the Salah type bracket or the Fabinho type bracket, okay, that really refreshes the spine. For me, it's refreshing the spine of that team. So we're talking about Wijnaldum going, he's been part of that spine for 4 years, right? That's what we need to refresh. We need to have a young gun in waiting to come in to replace Hendo as well. They need to go off and have that person ready to come in and start getting games in the same way Hendo started getting the games. We need 3 of those players. We need something in midfield to go with Fabinho. I think Thiago can do something when he has the right support cast around. But my biggest concern is up front. So if we don't get Champions League, I keep Mane, I bin Firmino, we get whatever we can for Firmino, and we lump what we can to get another player up there. Then you have Jota, you have the new player, you have Salah, and then you have Mane to come in as the alternate until he finds his form. And if he doesn't find his form, I'd rather have Mane to come in as an alternate than Origi or Firmino, because there's a chance he might start scoring goals for us again, right? But you'd still have the issue with the fullbacks. Like, the people, this is what's upsetting me. I thought we'd solve the fullbacks. I thought we had Williams, who was going to be an okay backup for Trent, and I thought we had Tsimikas was going to be a backup for on the other side. We don't. Those 2 lads are obviously sacks of shit, and that's terrible, because I think Williams has a decent player inside him. But the fans, if you look at what's going on social media in terms of what it is, look at what they've done to Nico Williams. How is that going to help a kid's mentality? The only player we've brought through outside of Trent so far is Curtis Jones, and the next one after that is Queevy Kelleher. Like, the game say, he's the only player that in along with Jones that has come in and has looked like a first 11 capable player in Alisson's absence. And that poor kid's been injured since he got in. Like, this is the madness that's gone in. I think that one other big upgrade is they need to look at their sports science department, and they need to look at their medical department. In my opinion, we've had a stupid amount of injuries. Now, I do think there was always going to be this. This happened at Dortmund. It was going to happen this. It's the style of play that Klopp brings in. At some point, injuries are going to happen because the amount of miles the players. And go back to Shane's point, he likes to keep a tight squad and a tight number of players. It's going to have wear and tear. And I think Klopp's growth has to be to understand he needs to use more players. Even if he has a Tsimikas and he has a Williams, sometimes you just have to play them, because sometimes you need Robbo to have 90 minutes off, 180 minutes off. So as when we get to games like Newcastle, you have a 90-minute Robbo and not a 75-minute Robbo. You know what I mean? And I just honestly, I just think when I look at what we have there, the mentality comes from 3 spine players, and then you really lump in behind it. I honestly, lads, I don't rate Chamberlain, but I would be all in favour if they tried to convert him into a right back for the season. If Nico Williams isn't going to get used, I'd rather see him play in that position, because the way he plays football isn't unlike the way Trent operates from the right full position, but at a lower level to what Trent does. Honestly,
I've never seen anyone treated as unfairly as Nico Williams. He didn't do very much wrong at all, and a kid, like, I've never seen that happen to another player, like to that scale. Like, in another season, Nico could have come in and kind of done a job here and there. There was less pressure, there was less focus. I don't know.
It was a very good job for Wales, Andy, as well.
Whenever
I've seen him play for Wales, he's been
so bizarre. And I mean, look, it is a social media thing as well. We have to remember that he could have really done with the support in Anfield at the time, and that was all going on for fans to get in behind him and clap him onto the pitch and whatever. I seen it with Kelleher as well. Like, when we've had to deal with Adrian coming in for Alisson, how well Kelleher done. And lately, I've been reading a lot of stuff about we need to have a proper backup to Alisson. Well, Kelleher's been excellent when he's come in. He's a really good up and coming goalkeeper. Really good. I mean, so it's just that strange thing that goes on social media. You know,
it's not. Listen, it's like I listen to different podcasts and stuff like that, and your man Andy Mitten, that's United we stand or something. He's kind of like United have been. He's always said, Solskjaer, when fans are in the ground, they're behind him and the players 100%. Don't use social media as a yardstick of what's going on with the the match going fan base, should I say? The match going fan base are behind, and I think Liverpool will be the very same with the players, with the likes of Nico Williams, and stuff like that. We can't use social media kind of as a yardstick for how players are treated. But ultimately, look on the point going into next season, I just have like, I think Klopp said, how are you going to defend the title? And he said, listen, we're going to attack it. Now, listen, ultimately, through circumstances now, we haven't done that. We've crumbled. I just personally think, I know Phil is saying he's worried about going into next season. I would like to see this team, I would like to see them called out. I'd like them to be under pressure. I'd like them to be pissed off with articles that's getting written. I'd like them to be pissed off about things that are being said. Now, having said that, I don't mean lines being crossed on social media and people being fucking dogged or anything like that. I mean researched pieces, stuff like that, saying, look, this isn't good enough, he wasn't good enough, X, Y, and Z. Because I think all elite sportsmen that you go in any sport, and Michael Jordans and everyone else, like, when they're kicked, when they're written off, they come back stronger. And I think we need to see that from this team. We need to see. I'd like to see them called out, and I'd like to see them respond. That's how I'd like to see it going forward next season.
We see stats, but I'm sure there's, even behind the scenes, there's probably analytics there, which I'm sure that, you know, the Klopp himself and the management team can display in terms of the drop off that there's been for certain individuals this season. It's visual, but I'm sure the analytics would back it up. One of the things that you would want to, and I know we all love XG, but we have been so bad this season. Like, we've underperformed on our XG by over 10 goals, and we're in the same company as two teams who've been relegated and Brighton. That just sums it up for me. You know, we've been, for whatever else you can say, we've been so wasteful this season. Like, the amount of chances.
Their list of excuses.
Fuck, Ray.
In fact, you can put it straight to the top of the list.
Ray.
Yeah. XG. What can we call it? XG.
Whoa. I had a fucking out of body experience there. Did this become an Anfield Index pod all of a fucking sudden? Don't you ever dare talk about XG.
Well, actually,
it's not even a real thing.
Speaking of Anfield,
we're going to press pause here and make up empty stats now if you want to keep this up.
Speaking of Anfield, I would be really interested to know exactly how much of a drop off there has been in effort in that final third. When was the last time you heard a manager saying that they had a really difficult time when they came to Anfield, that they felt like they couldn't get a breath? You know what I mean? How many players have said that?
Arteta just said he could get out.
Couldn't get a breath.
Yeah.
And how long ago was that? That was early on the season, wasn't it, Andy? The Arsenal game.
Yeah, we don't suck the energy out of the opposition anymore. We let them have it their own way. I mean,
XG. This is like, do you know what this is? This is 14-15 possession stats. We won the possession. We had XG. We had this. Ask me bollocks. Right? Stick it up your hole. If you want to talk about XG, go on fucking the Fatback 4 or something like that, right? This is the forum. We don't use the letters X or G on the forum.
We're about to wrap up. I'm going to quickly ask you, even though it's probably the most irrelevant recent Man United game, visit to Old Trafford, win, lose or draw at the weekend, Andy? Early prediction?
But yeah, we win loads.
But you can't contemplate anything else. Win, lose or draw.
I'm watching the draft, mate. You know, I've stopped watching football, so I don't really care. And I genuinely, like, Shane and the lads go, I'm not going to watch this week. I've given up the pact in the season. And then they're back on a Saturday. It's beautiful sunny Saturday. I was out swimming, I was out running, I was out with the kids playing football. Came back in that evening, watched a bit of the highlights. Went, not watching that crap. Turned it off. Who cares? It's all kick. Don't bother watching.
It's a drug.
It's not a drug, man.
Trust
me. Get out and enjoy yourself.
Watching the 5th and 6th rounds of the NFL draft as Liverpool play
in one. I'll be seeing who the Bears are going to pick in their 4 picks in the 6th round of the draft over that shite.
And then the 177 pick of the draft, the Chicago Bears select Phil. We have him sitting there on the couch with his jersey on.
Big time, Khalil Mack. I'll be having. That's who I'm going for. I hope we take a defensive tackle in the 6th round. Anyway, go on.
And Shane, finally from behind the sofa, win, lose or draw?
Well, I don't think we win, right? But one thing I would say is we've turned up at Old Trafford in the last couple of seasons when we've been the better side or in the better place, obviously by a mile, and we've fucking been shit. So maybe we'll turn up this week when we're in the shits and turn up and get a win. That's what I'm playing some mad fucking weird head game with myself here saying
That's like
that's like
saying that's like saying your man Kanate is all of a sudden not going to be injured. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
He's been injured for ages. So
well, he was injured on his holidays, doesn't count.
Right. I go for
we draw, right? 1-0.
United 1.7 xg, Liverpool 2.23 xg. Right, what that turns into an actual match, I don't know, but there's your xg for you. We can talk about the xg next week.
1-0 defeat. A 1-0 defeat. Probably.
What do you think, Greg?
I think we win. I think we win because it'll typify this season. It'll be the most pointless win. United will do nothing to damage United finishing second. It'll do nothing to help us top 4, and it'll just be another example of what could have been this season. So I think that's why we win. To be honest with you, I think
you put a far more eloquently than I could, Ray. I'm kind of thinking the same.
It's going to happen. It's going to happen, isn't it? Right. So we'll wrap up. Thanks everyone. Thanks Andy. Thanks Phil. Thanks Shane. Thanks to myself. We'll be back next Monday.
Thanks, Ray.
Thanks, Ray.
Thanks, Ray.
Really good at the hosting tonight. Well done.
We'll be back next week with 4 topics, 4 lads, and look. Until then, stay safe.
Next week's a bank holiday Monday.
Oh, well, we'll still be on.
Will we?
Or won't we? Right. See you later.
No.